Welcome everyone to the Community College STEM Network's uh, inaugural Research to Practice Clinic. Uh, Today we're having Will Tyson is going to be talking to us about the compensated community model for fostering belonging in community college transfer students. Um, my name is John Krepsek. I'm a professor of engineering at Hope College, and we'll do introductions in a second, but I just want to welcome everyone to the clinic, and thank you for taking the time to participate. So first, we'll do a quick introduction of the moderators and the speaker, and then while we're doing this, I'd like to invite the participants to uh, in the chat just put in your name and your institution or a little bit about yourself, just a brief introduction, and then we'll be underway. So as mentioned, my name is John Krepsek. I'm one of the moderators. I teach engineering at Hope College. Prior to being at Hope College, I was a program officer at the National Science Foundation and was for 3 years the code lead program officer for the STEM program, the Scholarships in STEM Education program. So I'm going to ask my co-moderator, Michelle Van Noy, to introduce herself.
Hi, so I'm Michelle Vanoy. I'm a co-PI or PI on the project, the Community College STEM Network, and happy to be part of this and being able to lead and coordinate some of the other many other activities. Hopefully, folks can check out on our website that we have, and hearing today and throughout the series about the other research products that are coming out from the project, and hopefully useful to practice.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Again, I encourage participants to just introduce themselves in the chat, and hopefully will be back with us before too long, and we can get going. Now, a little bit about the format here. Our goal in the Research to Practice clinics is to definitely emphasize the clinic aspect, the idea of interaction, the ability of participants to interact with the speaker and engage in dialogue, bring up your own observations, questions, interpretations, and try to find ways that the research topic um, can be made relevant to your own particular situation, your institutional environment, your degree program that might be involved in other aspects of your own specific situation. So along those lines, we encourage, as the presentation is underway, to put questions in the chat as they come up. And our plan is for the speaker to pause periodically to address the questions kind of in a semi-timely way before while people are still thinking about things, possibly engage in some dialogue and then proceed with the next segment of the prepared remarks. We do plan to have all of these clinics have a substantial time at the end for Q&A. Again, with the idea that the emphasis is on clinic, where people would be encouraged to discuss, how these research results might be relevant to their own situation. Will, how you doing there?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great. So let me pass things over to Will. Will, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then when you're ready, you can just get started.
Okay, so my name is Will Tyson. I am a professor of sociology at the University of South Florida, and I'm a co-PI on this CCSN project. So I'll be talking about compensated community model for fostering belonging in community college transfer students. And let me know if everything is fine with the screen sharing. Everything good?
Looks good. I can see the main screen and also your thumbnails down the side.
Okay. Say what down the side?
The thumbnails, like the little.
It might need to be put in presentation mode, maybe.
It is in presentation
Oh,
mode.
okay. For some reason,
I think
who knows?
that's the
Okay.
like it's yeah. I'm working on two screens and it's not allowing me to to share, but let me do it differently. Give me a second.
Well, we can see the main slide, so.
Yeah, we can see the main slide. Well, if you want, you can just go for
Okay. All right.
it.
All right. So this work is based on a paper from the study team for this paper. The first author was Elise Keekley, who was a master's student and a research assistant on the project. She's not with the project right now, but she is currently a clinical research coordinator at Stanford University School of Medicine. And also on this project is Geeti Anwar, who's a current PhD student in the sociology department at USF and a current research assistant on the project. And of course, there's me. So this study is looking at the impact of the STEM program on community college transfer students pursuing engineering degrees. Um, this work is supported by CCSN and also the Turnpike Project, standing for Transfer Undergraduate Rural Non-Traditional Student Pathways Through Identity, Knowledge, and Engagement, which is a partnership between Polk State College and USF Engineering. So this project supports rural and non-traditional community college transfer students from Polk State and other colleges, primarily in Florida, who are transferring to USF Engineering. Our goal is to increase opportunities in engineering education. Of course, this aligns with national goals of enhancing STEM education and supports the retention and graduation of high-achieving students with financial needs.
Hey,
So the
Will,
primary research question for
not
this
advancing
work,
the slides. So
say
we're
that
still,
again?
sorry, Will, we're still on the title slide. I don't know
Really?
if you can.
Like, I'm okay. I don't understand what the issue is.
So maybe I could, let's see, maybe I could try sharing. I have the slides.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
Is that fine? Is it going now?
So it's still stuck on the main slide from what I see. All right, let me see. Maybe Michelle can give me or can give me the ability to share, and I can try sharing them from my end.
Yeah, that should be fine, I think.
I don't understand what the issue is.
Yeah,
I'm
no problem.
scrolling through the slides on my end just fine.
Oh, that's
Um,
weird.
No problem. Let me give it a try here and see what we get going here.
I mean,
All
I would
right.
have to send you a copy of my slides, correct?
No, I think I have the one that you sent out earlier.
Oh, that's an old copy. I made some changes.
Okay.
Let me just
Sure.
email this to you real quick.
Yep.
Sorry about this. I don't know why this is an issue.
No problem. No problem. We'll get through it. Well, maybe while I'm bringing it up, you could maybe give a little bit of overview of the Turnpike program.
All right. I just emailed it to you. Yeah, so the project is currently in year 4. Um, the project did deal with some of the challenges related to COVID. Um, part of the challenge is, of course, recruiting students during a period where community college enrollment had gone down. And some of the challenges, which I think other programs face as well, is simply getting students to enroll and stay in the program. This is one reason why part of the focus for this project is how students actually spend their scholarship funds, which I'll get into that from a prior study as well. But yeah, the focus is on like how students actually spend the scholarship money as evidence that it's beneficial to take that leap to becoming a STEM scholar. And you know, I think, well, I can get into this more later, but um, kind of the decision matrix for students when looking at these programs is not as simple as 0 to 0 to 10,000 in terms of money. There's a lot of other factors in play that impact the decisions and the likelihood of success for students. But the component that we're talking about here is this compensated community model. All right, so John, if you could go ahead and scroll to the second one briefly. Yeah, this is the study team, as I just mentioned before, and then go to page 3. And so this is a brief description of the Turnpike project. So go to slide 4. So we're interested in how the STEM programs utilize the STEM scholarships to incentivize students to engage in academic and social support activities, and how they utilize STEM scholarships to help students balance work-life school demands, thereby enhancing their academic success and odds of retention. So this compensated community model involves providing financial incentives to encourage student participation, structure community building activities, and academic programs. In other words, how to use the scholarship in order to accomplish broader academic and social support goals within the program. So the model aims to reduce financial barriers and foster a sense of belonging, which enhances academic success and retention for low-income students. So next slide. So retention through belonging is a key concept in our study. We draw from Aston's model of involvement and Tinto's theory of student departure, which emphasize the importance of student involvement and integration. Aston's model suggests that the amount of energy that a student devotes to their academic experience is key for their sense of belonging and persistence. So students who are more involved in extra activities, classes, employment, other things on campus tend to have stronger sense of belonging and likelihood of higher education persistence. Tinto's theory focuses on academic and social integration. So the key there is students' perception of their intellectual and social compatibility between themselves and their higher education institution. So the match between students and institutional ideals contributes to their sense of belonging and increases their commitment to the institution. However, one of the key criticisms of this framework is that it places an undue burden on students to facilitate their own integration rather than acknowledging the role of institutions in supporting this process. And this is particularly true for non-traditional, low-income students, marginalized students, students moving from a farther way away, or whatever, students whose experiences fall outside of standard institutional perspectives. More recent scholarship underscores the role of institutions in creating a caring, welcoming environment for students through strong faculty-student relationships, counseling resources, and and basically the encouragement of understanding that people come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and that we're all kind of here together with a shared experience. Strayhorn's theory of belonging is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and defines belonging as students perceive social support on campus, a feeling of connectiveness, the experience of mattering and feeling cared about, accepted, respected, and valued by the campus community. This model looks at student retention in 3 parts: engagement, involvement, and belonging. So it's when students perceive the presence and helpfulness of services that they find supportive, that they feel a sense of belonging. So belonging is particularly important for underserved students. This includes students from low income backgrounds. The next slide. This is based on socioeconomic status, race, first-gen experiences, and gender. These factors strongly influence students' feelings of belonging. Community college transfer students represent a unique case for thinking about belonging in higher education, because transfer students are more likely than traditional students to have outside family or work responsibilities, which makes integration into the school environment more difficult. So when we look at completion rates for community college transfer students, the vast majority of community college students intend to transfer and earn a 4-year degree, but in practice, only about a third end up transferring. And they have they often have low graduation rates once they enter into a four-year institution. So what we're trying to accomplish in this work is to further the conversation around belonging for transfer students using a case study of programming that is designed to help students form communities and increase persistence. Next slide. So for this study, this is one of a few case studies as part of the CCSN project. For this study, we conducted 23 in-depth interviews and 4 focus groups of the total of 14 total students. These students are all community college transfers who are STEM scholars at a four-year university. We asked questions about their personal educational backgrounds, what prompted their decision to major, what prompted their decision to become an STEM scholar, factors that influenced their transition from their community college to USF, and the impact of the STEM scholarship with a focus on how they use the scholarship funds and the support services that they received. So we recorded the data, transcribed it using Rev, and analyze it with Atlas TI. Next slide. So first, I want to briefly go over some prior research that we've conducted. You can see the citation down there. For our first publication of this project was looking specifically at how STEM scholars spend their scholarship money. And we found 4 key themes. The first was optimizing work-life school balance. Students reduce their hours from full-time to part-time or from part-time to not working at all, and that gives them more time to study and engage in the campus environment. They also built a financial safety net. Students put away money for savings, utilities, essentials, bills, other factors, including unexpected expenses, and they use that as they use the scholarship as kind of backup funds for their other financial aid. Students also reduce commuting costs by paying for gas, paying for car repairs, or by moving on campus or near campus. A lot of these students grew up within 1, 2, 3 hours of USF. So a lot of them were living with their parents when they were enrolled in community college, and the scholarship encouraged them to make a decision to move closer to campus. And it also helped them overcome family medical and financial emergencies. Students mentioned having, covering medical emergencies for themselves, for family members, or emergencies like, one student's home caught on fire and they were able to use scholarship money to help deal with that challenge. Next slide. So for this study, the key program components that came out of these interviews were intrusive advising. This means frequent check-ins that were initiated by advisors, which cultivated stronger advising relationships and involved getting personally tailored advice. Tutoring and study groups. This is academic support networks, reduce social isolation, improve collaboration, and then biweekly scholar group meetings. These are meetings that take place every other Friday for STEM scholars that promote community building, professional development, personal growth in a non-competitive collaborative environment. Next slide. So intrusive advising. The financial support from the scholarship reduces stress and helps students spend more time on campus, which comes out of the finding from the last project. So right there, they're able to use their funds to help them better integrate themselves on campus, which means forming stronger advising relationships with staff, tutors, and peers. They're able to get specifically tailored advice from advisors who are more familiar with their specific challenges. I'm going to pull up a quote from the paper here. One student said, My STEM advisor was very helpful in navigating a lot of the trouble that I had in my first semester. Whereas I feel like an advisor who's less familiar with the situation and the demands of students like me probably wouldn't be able to navigate as well. Um, Advisors initiated contact with the scholars, which reduced the burden on students to seek structured support. This is especially key for transfers who are unfamiliar with the campus environment, who may not know all the personnel. So for advisors, this includes staff, faculty, to specifically seek out the scholars and say, hey, here are things we need to do. That is key to that's key to building that sense of community and helping students feel like they've that they're the ones who are the kind of goal, that they're the ones who are the focus. Scholars also express comfort, reporting that they feel closer to STEM advisors and that meetings are less rushed than with the general engineering advisors. So knowing that faculty and advisors are that they're, personally invested in the success. This is actually a quote. In knowing that faculty and advisors are personally invested in your success makes a big difference. All right. So next one, tutoring and study groups. So through the scholarships, students have less need for outside employment. That frees them up to participate in tutoring sessions and study groups on campus. Students express that they know that tutoring is not required, but the STEM program encourages tutoring to the point that like they feel like it's required. And again, the burden is on the advisors and the STEM project team to seek out the students. So doing so students, what's the best way to put it? They're not required to participate in these sessions, but there's less burden and stress on them to do so. The tutors assertively place scholars into study groups, which relieves the social anxiety around teamwork and collaboration. As one student said, so if you have a tutor, basically you're put in a group. Nobody even ever asked you. They tell you. You told me that you're free now, so we're going to meet at that time, and you're put in this position. It helps so much. So students reported that these tutors who are, like seniors or graduate students, um, assertively put them into study groups. So that relieves some of the challenges of being new and having to like navigate this social environment. One student specifically said, let me pull up this quote. Um, yeah, so it said that a lot of engineers don't have they're not that social. They're introverted. They are not they have social anxiety about the social parts of the job. And some of them didn't even really think that there are social components to being an engineer or being an engineering student. Um, and some want to work alone, that's their goal. But in this program, that social component is part of the framework of the program. They aren't put on an island. They are placed together in a cohort designed to facilitate the social component and make it easier for them to meet each other. Next slide. The biweekly group meetings are a big part of this. So the scholarships allow students more flexibility to attend these scholar meetings every other Friday afternoon. Um, I mean, USF, I don't know how unique this is compared to other campuses, but there are very few classes on Friday. The schedule is Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, with the assumption that a large majority of students are working on Fridays. So having a relief from their work schedule so students can come to campus on Fridays, every other Friday, for these group meetings to meet with their advisors, to meet in study groups. Um, this is a huge benefit of the STEM scholarship. Um, Also, these biweekly meetings stress professional development. So the speakers, they're guest speakers on topics such as learning good study habits, academic writing, and de-stressing through mindfulness. I mean, I've attended a few of these. I should have said before, I'm also a co-PI on the Turnpike project. So I'm quite involved in that project as well. And I've attended a few of these biweekly scholars meetings, and I always really enjoy it. The one on academic writing was very helpful to me. He was a senior professor, and I was able to present present our work at one of these bi-weekly scholar sessions. So it was a great way to triangulate findings with the students themselves. And I always enjoy going to these meetings. It's good lunch, good food, good fellowship. So it's a great time. It also facilitates personal and social growth. These meetings create these non-competitive collaborative environments to check in with peers, to network. I found it particularly enlightening the time that I went and presented findings. One student said, I think she was an older student, I think she's probably in her late 20s. She said that the biweekly group meetings help prepare her for professional networking events in the area, because she was able to get experience with small talk, experience discussing, what she was working on, her interest, her, successes. And so it made going to professional networking events in the city much less intimidating. And I thought that was a really interesting take. And we had a little back and forth in the session where I said, well, you got to think about it like this: the students here are your peer students now, but in the future there will be your colleagues in engineering. They will be the people who are, hiring and firing in the community. They are folks who will be, people you'll be collaborating on down the road on big projects. And so this is the start of your professional development and professional networking in this space as an engineer. And it all falls in line to a general theme from our research, that the STEM scholarship is their first job. This is the first time a lot of them are being paid to be an engineer. And that really helps in terms of professionalization and treating the work as a job. I did a project years ago, and that was one of the main themes of the study, saying that students should treat this as a job, but a lot of them are treating it as a job where they're not getting paid, and they have to go elsewhere for jobs where they do get paid. But the scholarship actually helps reinforce that idea. And a quote from one of the students about the biweekly scholar meetings: it kind of makes you feel good sometimes. You're not alone. All right, next slide. All right, so putting research into practice, and we can open it up here for more discussion. I have two sets of recommendations here, and some discussion questions at the end. But some of the recommendations that come out of this work, specifically for community college faculty, staff, and administrators: how to reinforce a sense of belonging, implement these types of intrusive advising practices to give students regular, tailored guidance, encourage participation, involvement in STEM-related extracurricular activities on campus, um, provide academic support. So proactivity, offer proactive tutoring and study group formation. Get that going in community college as they're thinking about transferring to a 4-year, and then offer these opportunities for study groups and peer mentoring. I would say, forming cohorts of students who are interested in transferring is key for the community college students. Organizing transfer workshops, keep students abreast of opportunities related to transfer, let them know early on about the transfer process. One key moment I remember in the Turnpike project is we were meeting with prospective students, and the level of intimidation about transfer was very clear. One thing I noticed is that a lot of these students uh, overestimated how far they lived from Tampa. It was very interesting. They'd say, "Well, I'm from this place, it's about 2.5 hours away," and I'm sitting there like, "No, it's like 1.5 hours, maybe 1:45 in traffic." And I realized that for a lot of these students, um, Tampa was the big city. They had been maybe a few times in their life. They had been when they were kids. So literally campus seemed further away than it really was. So sharing stories of successful transfer, having students who were formerly in those programs, your alumni, come back when they're students at the four-year university, have them come back and talk about their experiences, and then organizing campus visits to the university to alleviate some of the anxiety and fears about transferring. In terms of addressing financial barriers, colleges can inform students about scholarships, so help assertively help them identify scholarships, assisting in applications, offering workshops on budgeting and managing the financial aid, and then guiding their housing decisions. This is a key element for a lot of students, especially those who are transferring from rural areas into a four-year university located in a larger city. Where to live, how to manage that decision between commuting versus moving near or on campus. That's a challenge that students have, and some sort of like institutional help to address that would be key. Next slide. And then recommendations for university faculty, staff, and administrators. Targeted outreach in terms of recruitment. What strategies are you specifically using that are aimed at community college students? Developing partnerships with these students to get that seamless transfer process, and providing information. So that means hosting transfer fairs, information sessions, and hosting campus visits. Um, don't take a passive perspective that you're receiving these students. Be proactive and actually attract and bring in these students. So supporting the transition, develop orientation programs specifically tailored to transfer students, and of course the intrusive advising that we've already talked about. Um, then establishing transfer cohorts. This is something that really emerged as a key element of the Turnpike project. Creating cohorts specifically for the transfer students fosters a sense of belonging to ensure that they don't feel isolated. I think we've all had the experience of being new to something, and it's just natural when you are new entering into a space to assume that like everybody else knows each other. But when you know who else is new, it helps alleviate some of that stress. It helps alleviate some of the challenges. Um, and you don't feel alone. You don't feel isolated. And students, were very, several of the students expressed this specifically. They said, knowing that other people are going through these challenges makes me feel better because they're all like really smart and, really intelligent and really great people. And so if they're going through it, there's nothing wrong with me that I'm going through it too. So building these cohorts, building these social bonds is key. And that involves organizing regular social events and group meetings, offering, some sort of regularly scheduled workshops that involve career planning and networking. Um, a big part of this, our last point, the other financial aid opportunities, making sure students know about other opportunities that campus provides, and then paid internships. Some students said when they got the initial email recruiting them into the STEM program, the internship opportunities stood out more than the scholarship itself. And so promoting these paid internship opportunities and other professional networking opportunities is key to building that engineering identity and making sure that they know that this is something that they can get paid to do and allowing them to focus their energy on being an engineer. All right. So last, we just have some discussion questions. And so, what are just some, this is, for discussion, any best practices, challenges, successful initiatives, and, institutional collaboration. Any comments?
We'll have a few questions. Well, other people might be thinking of questions. So this is great. I actually have a lot of things I wanted I wanted to ask you. So getting back to the theoretical framework, so you really worked one-on-one with a lot of these students, and very in depth. Do you think now that either the Austin model or the Tinto model was an appropriate model? Like now that you've actually worked with the students, I mean, it doesn't. If the answer is no, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. But in the sense that these models are distillations of um, a very wide range of experience, and whereas do you see them actually working to characterize this population that you've worked with?
Well, I mean, I think one of the main challenges, I'm not saying anything new here, is that a lot of these models from the 70s and 80s were built on, traditional students attending four-year universities. And so we continue to need more research looking specifically at community college students, looking at community college transfer students to address the unique issues that they face. But I will say that I am a proponent of understanding how student integration can help aid the students in their college experience. I mean, I'm a professor because I like college, because I like helping students enjoy this time of their life. And one huge benefit of the STEM program is that the scholarships can alleviate some of the financial burden that takes so many students away from campus life. So right then and there, that's an incredible opportunity to help students integrate themselves into campus. What this research, this specific study brings to the table is a focus on the role that the institution plays in integrating students. Again, relieving the burden from the student to be the sole, having the sole responsibility for their own social and academic integration. Um, and so, this is part of bringing a welcoming environment. But again, it is difficult to, form these social ties with students, faculty, advisors, staff, etc. So the more that the institution can do, the better. And so I'm happy that this research can contribute to a growing literature looking specifically at those issues.
Great. And another question that came to mind is, so this research was supported in the context of the STEM scholarship program, NSF funds being made available to both scholarships and to allow institutions to conduct supports. But one of the observations I have is that a lot of the things you're talking about don't require external funding and could be institutionalized. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes. I mean, and that's part of the STEM program as well, because was it 60% has to go to scholarships. So that does require the budgets to be relatively lean in terms of advising staff, so forth and so on, which can be frustrating. It can be frustrating on that end, but it does mean that there are not necessarily significant financial barriers preventing an institution from putting some of these strategies into play. So, like you said, for example, intrusive advising, that just involves a kind of paradigm shift from students going to advisors when they need advice to advisors seeking out students to get to know them, to put that kind of positive pressure on them to seek it out. I mean, look, I'm sure I'm not the only one in my life whose life has been changed for the better by someone in some position of authority coming to me and saying, "Hey, I think you're talented. Here's what I want you to do." Um, Probably knowing that I wasn't going to take the initiative myself at that time in my life. And so I mean, so this is a big part of education, right? Like educators should be empowered to identify and help students that they think can do the work, who need the help, who may not take initiative on their own. And so, yeah, this is totally something that departments can duplicate. It's not, I don't think it's something that would take a huge amount of effort necessarily, and could be a relatively quick culture shift. Because then you have more stories of successful students who have directly been helped by this intrusive advising model, um, to where now you have more of these success stories, more students going around saying, "Oh yes, so and so really helped me with this." That then the students are more apt to take that advice and to seek out help when they need it. So yeah, I agree. This is, doesn't take a huge budget to do that, although that does help. Maybe to bring in more dedicated staff to do this work, to free up faculty time and so forth. I'll never say you don't need it, you shouldn't get a grant, but there are things that departments can do without necessarily having those funds.
Great. And in terms of research to practice, there's a huge body of research on mentoring, and I'm wondering if you see the intrusive advising kind of shifting into what could be classified as a mentoring relationship. Um, and another angle I'm thinking of here is, okay, so we're going to replace half of higher education with AI. So, AI can look at it and give you a schedule and give you advice, right? The algorithmic, here's what you need to take, given your career interests and what you've taken before and prerequisites. And you don't actually maybe even need a person to do that if you had a good enough AI. However, the mentoring aspect um, of the intrusive advising seems to be the real value added. I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that is representing a mentorship model where you're developing a long-term relationship with someone who is in some position of authority who can help you out along the way. And several of these students specifically mentioned faculty and staff by name when they talked about, who made them feel at home in these departments, and who they attributed components of their success. Um, and I think we are right to be concerned about a future in which that human touch, that human element is gradually stripped out of education. But we can understand how that happens. If the advising model is you go get advice when you need it, or you only see an advisor to put together a schedule or something like that, yeah, that is something that can be automated in some way. But but just like the students in this study said, they feel like the STEM advisors know them better than the general engineering advisors. And human advisors would certainly know individuals better than some AI replacement would. Um, I'm I'm very concerned that yeah, there may be things happening very soon in Florida that would remove a lot of non-instructional faculty who do important advising work, may remove them and force students to rely on some other means. So that's certainly a concern and upcoming challenge that we face. because that human element is key. And, that's going back to the first question. I mean, that's what a lot of the early social integration and academic integration literature was about. Students forming these key relationships that propel them through their kind of academic to meet their academic goals.
Great. I know we're getting near the end, but I had one other question. So there's a lot of interest now in free community college and making community college almost the really the first step for maybe even the majority of bachelor's degrees. It's a significant fraction now. So many of the issues that you're researching are going to become even more important in terms of institutions that are grappling with them. So what would you say would be the couple of takeaways for an institution that's looking at increasing its transfer population, either by choice or by the actions of the marketplace?
So I am definitely a proponent of free community college. The challenge is making sure that the colleges have the resources to deal with the influx of students and to make sure that every student is getting the types of opportunities that they should have within a campus environment. Um, I think that creating creating cohorts of community college students who are looking to transfer into specific programs would be one thing I would definitely recommend. It's important to know that other people are going with you on a journey, and this sense of like a shared struggle is key. So knowing that you're not alone and that other people are dealing with similar things that you're dealing with, similar challenges, I think that's really key. And as hopefully more students enter into community colleges, that they're not they're doing this and have opportunities to integrate themselves into those environments and have meaningful relationships with peers within those spaces.
Great. This is interesting. I'm thinking too that okay, so there's a discussion now about reducing the importance of bachelor's degrees. Some we might be seeing populations with a greater number of what we would consider the outside the typical um, profile now. It sounds like you interacted with some of those already. Any predictions or observations where we're going to be having a very, more diversity of background in higher education, things that you see as kind of emerging issues there?
Sure. Well, as most of the folks here know, my work with community colleges started through the NSF Advanced Technological Education program, and that program is geared towards AAS degrees that are not necessarily intended for transfer. So the group of community college students I'm most interested in aren't those who are looking to transfer to a 4 year. They're the ones looking to get in, get out, and improve their job skills, get an AS degree that will, allow them to change careers or get a promotion at their job. Um, and for them, getting a bachelor's degree may be something to do down the road. It's not an immediate outcome like it is for transfer students in this space. So I've kind of been in that non-transfer space for a long time, and transfer is relatively new to me. Um, so I think what was the second part of your question?
So any um, predictions about issues that are going to be emerging when these students start to find their way into the four-year institutions, a greater percentage of those?
Well, I will choose to be optimistic here, um, because there's certainly plenty to be pessimistic about in higher education and higher education funding, even at the community college level. My hope is that we can blur the lines, these artificial lines between college educated and non-college educated, individuals. And we see this in the political space quite a bit, but that's an artificial distinction because for a lot of folks, the only difference between college educated and non-college education is showing up at your local community college to take some classes. And I hope that we see a blurring of these boundaries or eliminating these boundaries altogether, because college is there for you. I was at an event, a few months ago, and a young man introduced himself to me, and he said he called himself a college dropout, a 20-year-old college dropout. And, after kind of telling me a little bit about his challenges he was facing and all this, I said, well, first of all, like, you're not a college dropout. You're only 20 years old. Like, college will be there for you when you want it. So don't think of this as something that you failed to do. Think of it as something you just haven't done yet. And so I hope that those lines are blurred and more people can see themselves in that student role through community colleges. Obviously, our colleges have a huge responsibility and opportunity to uplift students, and I think that I hope they'll continue to be empowered and funded to maintain that role.
Great, thanks, Will. I've been overlooking my co-host, Michelle. I wonder if you have anything to add, Michelle, before we end our time.
No, I just say, I think one point, Will, that you made that I think is really interesting is about the scholarship is sort of being almost like the student's first job. And I guess I was curious what things the colleges did that helped convey that message to students, or if you got some sense from the students, what really helped them pick up that message.
Sure. I mean, really, it's all that we've discussed today. First of all, paying them a scholarship, and again, not requiring, but creating an environment where students understand that they are doing these things as part of getting the scholarship. So, doing tutoring, doing peer mentorship, and just, attending class and being a good student. That is part of the scholarship. And so, in that respect, it allows them to see this as part of their job, which makes it more competitive with having a job to begin with. I mentioned that early on and didn't really get into it too much in my talk, but those are competing identities, where students are often coming from working full time while enrolled in community college, and then have the opportunity to reduce those hours upon getting this scholarship. And so, but how does the identity of being a prospective engineer and making $10,000 in scholarship compete with, you know, managing their shift at the shoe store, or, whatever, and making 30,000? Like, how does it compete with that identity? Which is, what, especially non-traditional students, older students who've been working full time for a while, who have family responsibilities, et cetera, being able to treat being an engineering student as a job that pays them and will offer promotions in terms of paid internships, future employment opportunities, even before they get a bachelor's degree, makes being an STEM scholar more competitive with the other alternatives that students have to make ends meet.
Great. Thanks, Will. So I just noticed that the clock hit 3 o'clock on the East Coast here. So it's officially the time for our clinic to adjourn. I wanted to thank everyone for participating and encourage you to look forward to our one coming up in May, and also to get the word out to any of your other colleagues or people you might be interested in um, joining in the clinics and interacting with our presenters. So any final thoughts, Michelle or Will, before
Yeah, it's
we?
just one more slide with the evaluation survey materials on it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, please help us out with the survey if you can.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Will.
much.
Thank you. Bye.